there's such a clear distinction. You feel like Bernie Sanders would be good and Hillary Clinton would be bad.
Here's the thing. If Liz Warren was running, it'd be much easier because we could get a real progressive and we could get our first woman president. And both those things are big deals. But the reality is that for me, as somebody who grew up in the first generation in the mass incarceration era, there's nothing more important than actually getting things shifted. So we stop spending so much money in prison and we start spending it on education. So our kids, when they're 18, they don't have to choose essentially, one of three roles in our society. You can go to prison, you can go to college and be deeply in debt, or you can do neither, but still not get the college degree because you can't afford it.
I feel like when I hear Hillary Clinton talk about why she's running and what she would do as president, she's making that same pitch, though. I feel like her policy take on these issues right now is pretty similar to Senator Sanders.
And then you remember 2008, when there were 7 Democrats on stage, and they were asked specifically about if we get rid of the disparity between crack and powder, which had sent so many black women to prison, disproportionately black women to prison, would you support applying it retroactively? These women can get out and take care of their families, reunite their kids, get their kids out of foster care. Everybody said yes except for her. She said no. And then you look this year, you have 3 Democrats on stage. One of them, Martin O'Malley, abolished the death penalty state. One of them, Bernie Sanders, opposes it. Now, mind you, things have shifted since 2008. 6 governors, 5 plus Martin, had led their state in abolishing the death penalty. And Hillary Clinton says, yeah, I support the death penalty. And so the concern is that on these issues, you shouldn't get pushed to the left. She started off this race, she was in support of for-profit prisons. Now she says she's against it. She took money from their lobby. Now she says she won't. But the concern is, one, she can flip-flop, she can move, and 2, she really sets her edge based on where the Republican Party is at the moment. Now the Republican Party generally supports retroactivity. She does too, but they're still for the death penalty, and so is she.
On that, it's because you're so drilled down on criminal justice issues.
Sure, just as a distinction.
Well, but Bernie Sanders, on his website until recently, bragged about the fact that he was a supporter of the crime bill in the 90s.
Sure.
And so it's not like he has been an unwavering champion on this issue along. He also shifted on this issue from the same position that she was in.
Well, again, shifted in the 90s. I mean, you have to recall...
And was still campaigning on it recently.
But let's be really clear. You have to recall that in the 1990s, most CBC members supported that 100 times disparity. Most CBC members voted for it. Everybody so lost their mind. There was so much urban violence, right? And not everybody, but lots of folks now who would like us to forget that they were for those bills. 2008, we're talking about retroactivity. 2016, she supports the death penalty. I don't want to, I'm willing to say, let's not hold any of her husband's bills against her. I'm talking about her own actions. And I'm also talking about her own words. I mean, this is a woman who, starts off, supporter of Barry Goldwater. You say, fine, that's her parents. Then she's a lawyer for the Black Panther Party.
She was in college,
that's important.
Right.
Right. And Bernie in college was going to jail with the Congress of Racial Equality.
Okay.
All right? Okay?
That's fair enough.
But hold on, right? So then you get to the 80s, she's chairing the Children's Defense Fund. But in the 90s, the Children's Defense Fund, in the 90s, she's pushing the super predator theory. The super predator theory was there were some children that were so sociopathic by age 6 months they were beyond redemption. It's not just a violation of psychology; it's a violation of theology. It was never used to explain the actions of young white men in Columbine and those sorts of tragedies. It was almost always used to explain the actions of young urban black men. And so it's that ability. How can you go from being at the side of Marion Wright Edelman to pushing the super predator theory? I can't explain it. It confounds me. And with I think for me as a movement person, it comes down to the trio that Martin Luther King referred to as the giant triplets of evil: racism, militarism, and greed. And when you go by that standard, what you see is Bernie Sanders has been very consistent in fighting racism. He's been very consistent in fighting stupid wars, whether it was Vietnam or it was Iraq. And he's been very consistent in fighting greed. And when you take those with Hillary, it gets confusing. It just gets confusing.